Namaskar. Let's get you the latest on the world's largest democratic election in India. With their sights set on 95 Lok Sabha seats in the third phase of India's general elections, political parties have raised the campaign pitch as leaders travel across 12 states and union territories to make an impact on the voters. The BJP stalwarts like the Prime Minister Narendra Modi, the Home Minister Amit Shah and Party President JP Nadda reached out to voters in Maharashtra, Telangana and Karnataka. And the Congress leader Kharge was in Chattisgarh, as is Rahul Gandhi was in Madhya Pradesh. And the sitting MP Asauddin Owaisi reached out to voters in his constituency, Hyderabad. Mihir Makuri gets us this roundup.
Intense campaigning is underway for the third and fourth phases of polls for India's general elections. On Tuesday, Prime Minister spearheaded the BJP election charge, embarking on a marathon of rallies across Maharashtra. In the state, Prime Minister held rallies in Dharashiv, Latur and Mada.
आज 80 करोड़ देशवासियों को उनकी थाली भरी हुई रहती है, उनका चूल्हा जलता रहता है, उनका बच्चा भूखा नहीं सोता है, 80 करोड़ लोगों को मुफ्त खाना मिलता है। इसका पुण्य किसको मिलता है? आपको मिलता है। आपने मोदी को वोट दे करके ये पुण्य कार्य करने के लिए भेजा है।
Following this, Prime Minister visited Telangana's Zahirabad, where he held an election rally that drew a throng of supporters. Senior BJP leader and Home Minister Amit Shah held a press conference in Assam condemning the Congress party for spreading lies. He clarified that the BJP supports reservations for SCs, STs and OBCs. Home Minister also travelled to West Bengal, where he conducted a poll rally amidst a sea of people. In Karnataka, Shivamogga, BJP National President JP Nadda addressed an intellectual meeting after he led a roadshow in Baidagi, Karnataka. In Madhya Pradesh, senior BJP leader and Defence Minister Rajnath Singh held multiple rallies to bolster support for the party. Tuesday witnessed Union Minister and BJP candidate from Mumbai North Lok Sabha seat Piyush Goyal filing his nominations for the forthcoming Lok Sabha elections. He was accompanied by Maharashtra Chief Minister Eknath Shinde and BJP candidate from Kota, Lok Sabha Speaker Om Birla. BJP's New Delhi Lok Sabha candidate Masuri Swaraj filed her nomination papers after holding a roadshow. Opposition parties are too leaving no stone unturned to woo the voters in their favour. Congress President Mallikarjun Kharge addressed a poll rally in Chattisgarh, where he criticized the NDA while speaking to the gathered crowd.
ये चुनाव देश को एकता के साथ रखने का चुनाव है। ये चुनाव हमारे संविधान को बचाने का चुनाव है और ये चुनाव देश के लोकतंत्र को बचाने का चुनाव है।
In Bhind, Madhya Pradesh, Congress leader Rahul Gandhi addressed a public rally to garner support for the party. Meanwhile, in West Bengal, Chief Minister Mamata Banerjee held a public meeting. Down south, AIMIM Chief Asauddin Owaisi participated in a door-to-door election campaign in Hyderabad, meeting voters and soliciting their votes. Mihir Makuri's report for DD India.
Now, India is the second largest producer of silk in the world, and one of the finest silks comes from West Bengal's Murshidabad, a parliamentary constituency going to the polls on the 7th of May in the third phase. And the agro-based cottage industry is facing many challenges and is dwindling out despite being a source of livelihood for over 250,000 people in the region. DD India's Gautam Roy finds out what they want from their political suitors.
The weaving of the famed Murshidabad silk in West Bengal on a handloom has its own rhythm and beat. But the zipping of the spindle on the loom is not mirrored by the silk business, despite getting a geographical indication tag last year from the central government.
महंगाई में जो है मजदूरी कम है और महंगाई ज़्यादा है, यही प्रॉब्लम है.
From weavers to merchants and exporters, Murshidabad silk industry faces multiple challenges. Sericulture is an agro-based cottage industry. Murshidabad silk provides income to 250,000 people. More than 60% of the workforce is women. Many welfare schemes and subsidies are given by the central government, especially for women. Murshidabad silk is exported to over 30 countries worldwide. The industry faces many challenges ranging from market access to climate change. Weavers are paid less and they have to deal with rising raw material costs. The weavers also get exploited and exposed to pesticides used by farmers. Large number of weavers, silk manufacturers have left the trade in the last 2 decades. Only 28% of weavers are interested in passing on their trade to their children. Hand-woven silk also faces competition from cheaper, machine-made silk from China. Even before getting to the looms, silk cocoons brought from the neighboring Malda district and other places go through a labor and cost-intensive process to make them into threads before weavers turn them into fabric. The government gives subsidies under schemes like Modified Market Development Assistance or MMDA, but they only help to a certain extent. Murshidabad silk in its cocoon form is the color of gold, and at one time it used to be worth its weight in gold. But ever since the COVID pandemic, while the prices of inputs have more than doubled, the price of cocoons on an average has only gone up by 1.2 Indian rupees a kg. And that is making all the farmers in the entire industry suffer. For now, the industry is carrying on, putting out their exquisite wares for interested buyers. Being handmade over days, Murshidabad silk sarees carry a hefty price tag, which only discerning and well-to-do customers can afford.
चल रहा है अच्छा, लेकिन और भी अच्छा चलने के लिए गवर्नमेंट बहुत कोशिश कर रहा है, लेकिन और भी कोशिश करे तो हम लोगों का अच्छा होगा, क्योंकि नए जो लोग हैं, वीवर्स लोग हैं, बुनकर लोग, सभी इस काम में नहीं आना चाहता है.
It's election season in India. Murshidabad, along with its 3 neighbouring parliamentary seats, Jangipur, Uttar and Dakshin Malda, are going to polls on the 7th of May in the 3rd of the 7th-phase national polls. Along with other sections of society, the silk industry is also putting forth its demands to political parties, expecting them to deliver using the power of their vote. With camera person Uttam Singh, Gautam Roy, Murshidabad, West Bengal, DD India.
Amid the election heat, Karnataka's Hubli town is on the boil following a young Hindu girl's murder by a boy from a different community, which is taking a political turn as both the Congress party and the Bharatiya Janata party spar over the issue. The matter, which has grabbed national headlines, is sure to be a hot poll issue as well. DD India's Ravi Daman reports from the ground.
As it approaches to vote for the Lok Sabha elections on 7th of May, the town of Hubli in Karnataka is simmering with anger and an eager search for justice. Fighting for space and attention, besides political slogans and banners, are posters of this girl, Neha Hiramat. She is no longer alive, killed mercilessly by a spurned man inside a college campus. Neha's father, Niranjan Hiramat, is a Congress councillor in the Dharwad Hubli Municipal Council. The incident triggered immediate response by various political and social groups, but some statements by the state ministers made the already delicate situation worse.
I want to demand both the governments to take the legal law for this case, Neha Hiramat law. In this case, we want the justice.
And as Hubli readies to vote, the issue has taken center stage, pushing all other narratives to the sidelines.
हुबली में हमारी एक बेटी के साथ जो कॉलेज कैंपस में हुआ, उसने तो पूरे देश में भूचाल ला दिया है. उस बेटी का परिवार एक्शन की मांग करता रहा, लेकिन कांग्रेस की सरकार तुष्टीकरण का दबाव उसी को प्राथमिकता देती है. उनके लिए नेहा जैसी बेटियों की जिंदगी की कीमत नहीं है, उनको तो अपने वोट बैंक की चिंता है.
The state government has handed over the case to the CID and has also formed a fast-track court to expedite the trial. Fayaz is in custody and the investigations are going on. Elections have propelled this issue to prominence.
It's not the first case of its kind in India, but yet another tragic incident in a series of crimes against girls, deranged, psychic lunatics committing heinous crimes against girls. Election fever in Karnataka has brought this case to the limelight. But the real tribute to Neha and many others before her would be a bigger, sterner legal response to such incidents in future. With camera person Mor Mukut Sharma, Ravi Dhiman in Hubli for DD India.
Bhopal, the capital city of Madhya Pradesh, is among the 9 seats that are going to the polls in the third phase. A bastion of the BJP for the last 35 years. Bhopal is witnessing a fierce fight between two fresh faces fielded by the BJP and the Congress that are contesting the elections on the issues of infrastructure, development, unemployment and cleanliness.
The capital of Madhya Pradesh, also known as the City of Lakes, goes to polls in the third phase of the general elections in India, along with 8 other constituencies of the central Indian state. Bhopal has various natural and artificial lakes and is one of the greenest cities of India. The city was the capital of the former Bhopal state, a princely state under the British rule, and was ruled by the Nawabs of Bhopal until India's independence in 1947, and still has various examples of the pre-independence architecture. Bhopal has been a bastion of the BJP since 1989, and the BJP has held the parliamentary constituencies for the last 35 years. This election, both the BJP and the Indian National Congress have fielded new candidates for the constituency. The BJP candidate is Alok Sharma, former mayor of Bhopal, who is promising people with more employment, better infrastructure and development for the city.
प्रधानमंत्री आदरणीय नरेंद्र मोदी जी के सपनों का भोपाल कैसा हो, इसमें हम जनता के बीच में गए हैं, जनता से हमने संवाद भी किया और जनता के जो सुझाव हमारे पास आ रहे हैं, बहुत ही जल्दी हम भोपाल के विकास का एक रोड मैप मैनिफेस्टो के रूप में जारी करेंगे. सबका साथ, सबका विकास, उस सबके विश्वास को लेके भोपाल में भारतीय जनता पार्टी लोकसभा का चुनाव जीतेगी.
Meanwhile, the Congress party has fielded Arun Srivastav, a lawyer by profession who seeks to break the winning streak of the BJP in the city.
इस समय सबसे बड़ी समस्या बेरोजगारी की. हर घर में 2-4 बेरोजगार बैठे हैं और कोई प्लानिंग गवर्नमेंट की तो भोपाल में मेरे को दिखती नहीं है. आईटी हब की बात की गई थी, वो नहीं हुआ.
Meanwhile, the people of Bhopal highlight the infrastructure development and cleanliness drive among the major works done by the government in the last 10 years.
बहुत काम हुए हैं. तालाब की साफ सफाई हुई है. तालाब का बिना फिल्टर से भी पानी पीते हैं लोग. ऐसा नहीं कि इसको फिल्टर होगा जब भी पीते हैं. लोग बिना फिल्टर से भी ऐसा हाथ में आप लोगे तो नल के पानी में और ये पानी में कोई मिस्टेक नहीं है.
While some are hopeful of more employment under the new government, calling it the biggest poll issue.
कर्मचारियों की सुनवाई, कर्मचारियों को महंगाई भत्ता देना या जो भी सुनवाई हुई है वो ये वर्तमान सरकार नहीं करी है.
पेंशन नहीं मिलती है तो उसके लिए कहीं ना कहीं हमें आगे चले कुछ ना कुछ तो करना ही पड़ेगा, क्योंकि अगर पेंशन नहीं मिलेगी तो कहीं ना कहीं समस्या तो खड़ी होनी ही होनी है.
Bhopal is not just the capital city of Madhya Pradesh, it is also the power center of one of the largest Indian states. And with both the national parties that are contesting elections in the city, the Indian National Congress and the Bharatiya Janata Party fielding fresh faces, new candidates, there is hope that finally people-centric issues will take the center stage in the politics of the city. In Bhopal, Madhya Pradesh, with camera person Ramakant Sharma, Akshay Dongre, DD India.
And still to come here on DD India News Hour. India's services export set to cross $800 million by 2030, says Goldman Sachs. G7 energy ministers agree to end the use of coal in power generation in the first half of the 2030s. Former US President Donald Trump is fined $9,000 for violating a gag order in the New York hush money trial case that's on.
We are in the western state of Gujarat. This time over, Congress and Aam Aadmi Party are joining hands to challenge the BJP.
The Congress party is not ready to face the election.
If that party is so great and if the leaders of the party are so great, why they have not been able to create the leaders from this cadre?
If you look at last couple of decades, it has been a fortress of Gujarat. For BJP, it has been.
See, this battle is to save the democracy.
You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Mark Lynn. The Republican presidential candidate Donald Trump was held in contempt of court on Tuesday and fined $9,000 for repeatedly violating a gag order that barred him from making public statements about witnesses, jurors, and some others connected with his New York hush money case. The judge overseeing Trump's trial also said that he would consider jailing him if he continued to violate the gag order. In a written order, Justice Yuan Merchan has said that the fine may not be enough to serve as a deterrent for the wealthy businessman turned politician and lamented that he did not have the authority to impose a higher penalty. Merchan will consider whether to impose further fines and other statements at a hearing on Thursday.
So we're here. This is a hoax. This is a judge who's conflicted, badly conflicted. I've never seen a judge so conflicted, and giving us virtually no rulings. I hear I'm not even allowed to say advice of counsel. This is a new one to me, advice of counsel. When you have a lawyer and the lawyer does something or advises you on something.
Well, DD India correspondent Ira Spitzer now joins us from New York with an update on this story. Ira, well, is this fine being seen as a setback or, just par for the course by the Trump camp?
Well, the expectation here is that this will probably not have a major effect on the Trump camp. Certainly $9,000, not a sum that a billionaire would be especially worried about, and the threat of incarceration perhaps is something that Donald Trump would take note of, but of course that would be such a significant escalation to the gag order that it's not really seen as realistic that we could see that level of punitive action. So it certainly does send a message to Donald Trump and the people around him that the judge is not happy with this conduct, but in terms of actually preventing Trump from making these disparaging statements about witnesses or potential witnesses, it remains to be seen whether it will have the kind of deterrent effect that the judge would hope. But certainly the drama continues apace here in the third week of the former president's trial here in Manhattan. We've heard today from Gary Farrow, who is a banker who worked with Donald Trump's former lawyer and former fixer, Michael Cohen, who of course is a key figure in this hush money case. And we learned earlier today about an account that Michael Cohen opened back in 2016, which prosecutors allege was eventually used to facilitate the hush money payment to adult film actress Stormy Daniels, which of course is the payment in question, the hush money payment in question
Yes.
that brings the former president to this criminal trial in New York.
Ira, also you did mention Michael Cohen. Has he testified as yet in court? And how much bearing is his testimony expected to have on the prosecution's case?
So Michael Cohen has not yet taken the witness stand. We expect him to do so over the course of this trial. That will be the moment that everyone is waiting for. It is he is at the center of this alleged hush money scandal, and you'll remember that this case is not only about whether Trump falsified business records, which in many cases would be a misdemeanor. It's also whether there was the intent and the effect of actually influencing the outcome of the 2016 presidential election. So Michael Cohen, being that he was this close and trusted advisor to the president and apparently was acting on his behalf, although of course Trump denies those charges in this instance, it will really give the jury a chance to assess, at least from his testimony and also from the cross-examination from Trump's lawyers of Michael Cohen, a chance to assess how serious perhaps these charges are and whether a felony conviction could be possible, which of course would be a very bombshell type verdict given everything at stake here.
Unprecedented indeed. Thanks very much, Ira Spitzer from New York. Now, energy ministers from the group of 7 wealthy countries, they've agreed on Tuesday to end the use of coal in power generation during the first half of the 2030s. This is according to the official communique. However, in a caveat, this statement included an alternative goal of phasing out coal-fired power plants in a timeline consistent with keeping a limit of 1.5 degrees Celsius temperature rise within reach, in line with the country's net zero pathways. The agreement on coal marks a significant step in the direction indicated last year by the COP28 United Nations Climate Summit to phase out fossil fuels, of which coal is the most polluting. And DD India correspondent Giles Gibson now joins us from Rome with more. Giles, to what extent has the G7 actually already phased down coal before it reaches the stage of phase out?
Seen in recent years individual G7 members gradually reducing their reliance on coal in terms of their energy mix. So, for example, the UK has actually been pretty successful at this, cutting the share of coal power stations in terms of its energy mix down to just 3% in 2022. Those are official figures from the International Energy Agency. But you do have this gap, this difference, a pretty big difference between different G7 members. So you have Japan, which that same figure for them is 27%. Coal making up 27% of its energy mix. Now, this agreement is certainly historic. It's the first time that we've seen the G7 members as a whole agreeing to a specific timeline when it comes to phasing out coal. But I think we also do see those big differences between the members in terms of the language in the agreement. So yes, we do have this very clear pledge to phase out coal in the early 2030s, so by 2035, but we also have this sort of secondary clause or at a timeline consistent with sticking to keeping the global temperature rise to 1.5 degrees Celsius. And I think that also reflects the facts that we've been getting these reports that both Germany and Japan, 2 G7 members who still have a large reliance on coal, about a fifth or a quarter of their energy mix, that they were pushing, according to these reports, for that language to be a bit more nuanced, for that target to not be quite so concrete.
Giles, also, while making these commitments, what is the G7 doing to ramp up renewable energy and battery capacity?
Yeah, we've seen some specific pledges on that in the final statements that we got from the G7 energy ministers in terms of storage for the power sector. They say they want to boost that to 1,500 gigawatts by 2030. Just to kind of put that number into context, that would be a 6 times increase compared to the levels that we saw in 2022. Of course, storage is seen as very significant in terms of building out both the solar and the wind sectors, because of course you need an ability to store power when the wind is blowing, when the sun is shining, for those times when the wind is not blowing and when the sun is not shining, just to keep the kind of delivery of power to the grid consistent rather than sort of having peaks and troughs. We have to say though that environmental NGOs are responding very negatively to this agreement from the G7 energy ministers. Just to take one, for example, Greenpeace, a very well-known international NGO when it comes to the environment, they're saying that this agreement about coal is too little too late, and they're saying that coal needs to be phased out much sooner, by 2030, not by the mid-2030s.
Giles Gibson, thanks very much for joining us. Now, Sri Lanka's cabinet has approved the plan to renovate the Kanke Santurai port in the northern part of the island. The project will be executed with Indian financial assistance as a grant project. Recognizing the project's significance, India has pledged to bear the cost. The decision not only addresses the port's infrastructural needs, but also underscores the strength of bilateral cooperation between the two countries. The 16-acre port is located 104 kilometers from Karaikal port in Puducherry in India. Now, there's good news for the Indian economy. Goldman Sachs, one of the world's reputed agencies, has upgraded its growth forecast for India to 6.6%. Also, there has been a significant growth in India's global services exports, which has more than doubled, in fact, over the last 18 years. This report tells us more.
India's share in global services exports has more than doubled over the last 18 years, and rise of global capability centers (GCCs) has played a crucial role in their expansion, according to a report by Goldman Sachs. The report further said that India's services exports grew to nearly $340 billion in 2023 at a compound annual growth rate of around 11% from 2005, outpacing goods export growth. Computer services remain the dominant subsector, accounting for nearly half of India's services exports in 2023. However, professional consulting exports have emerged as the fastest growing sector within services exports, indicating diversification and expansion in India's service offerings in the global market. This report suggests a positive trajectory for India's economy with strong potential for continued growth and diversification, particularly in the services sector. Meanwhile, Goldman Sachs has upgraded its forecast for India's economic growth in calendar year 2024 to 6.6%, up by 10 basis points. This revision is attributed to increased investment spending and robust activity data. The report further indicates that high-frequency activity data remains strong. Proprietary indices show a rebound in consumption growth at 7.9% year-on-year in Q1 calendar year 2024 compared to 3.5% year-on-year in Q4 calendar year 2023. However, investment growth has slowed to 2.3% year-on-year, down from 10.6% year-on-year in Q4 calendar year 2023, as the government has front-loaded capital expenditure. Bureau Report, DD India.
Well, still to come here on DD India News Hour. We'll be discussing the rising tensions in the South China Sea. The US Secretary of State Anthony Blinken meets the Jordanian Deputy Prime Minister and underscores the necessity of expediting the flow of humanitarian assistance to those in need in the Palestinians in Gaza. Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu says Israel will carry out operations against Hamas in Rafah with or without Gaza hostage deal.
We are in the western state of Gujarat. This time over, Congress and Aam Aadmi Party are joining hands to challenge the BJP.
The Congress party is not ready to face the election.
If that party is so great and if the leaders of the party are so great, why they have not been able to create the leaders from this cadre?
If you look at last couple of decades, it has been a fortress of Gujarat. For BJP, it has been.
See, this battle is to save the democracy.
You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Mark Lin. The Philippines on Tuesday accused China's Coast Guard of harassment and of damaging two of its boats in a disputed area of the South China Sea. Beijing said that it had expelled those vessels from a hotly contested island. The Philippine Coast Guard ship was heading to Scarborough Shoal, and they were going to assist Filipino fishermen in the area when the fishermen's vessel, along with the Coast Guard vessel, they came under a spray of water cannons used by the Chinese Coast Guard ships. This report gives us a clearer picture.
Filipino children learning the hard way about climate change as a scorching heat wave takes temperatures to 43 degrees Celsius, prompting authorities to suspend in-person classes in thousands of schools. But a different kind of heat has been building up in the South China Sea. The Philippine Coast Guard accused Chinese Coast Guard of harassment on Tuesday in a disputed area of the South China Sea. Two Chinese Coast Guard vessels used water cannons against the Philippine ship, which was patrolling together with a fishing vessel near the Scarborough Shoal. The visuals on your screen were shared by the Philippine Coast Guard. The incident comes as the navies of the Philippines, France and the United States complete a series of dynamic exercises aimed at bolstering maritime capabilities. The 5-day exercise began on the 26th of April, according to a statement by the Armed Forces of the Philippines. US Secretary of State Anthony Blinken was in China recently, and he told the media that the US commitment to the Philippines was ironclad.
Freedom of navigation and commerce in these waterways is not only critical to the Philippines, but to the US and to every other nation in the Indo-Pacific, and indeed around the world. That's why so many nations have expressed concern about the PRC's maritime maneuvers. I made clear that while the U.S. will continue to work to de-escalate tensions, our defense commitments to the Philippines remain ironclad.
The Philippine Coast Guard on Tuesday accused the Chinese of setting up another floating barrier that covers the entrance of the Scarborough Shoal. Beijing and Manila have confronted each other numerous times in recent months at the submerged reef. Both the Philippines and China claim it as their own, China calling it Huangyan Island.
Huangyan Island is an inherent territory of China. The Chinese Coast Guard took the necessary measures to firmly remove them. China advises Philippine side to immediately stop its infringing and provocative actions and not to challenge China's firm determination to safeguard its sovereignty.
A British scholar who's a Chinese recognized expert on the South China Sea seems to think the US has no real desire to protect the Philippines. Their real interest is to contain China.
It is formally stated by the Americans in their record that their objective is to contain China, and part of containing China means keeping them off these islands.
Japan faces increasing tensions with China over the Senkaku Islands and has delivered a mobile air surveillance radar system to the Philippines. Japan's State Minister of Defense, Oniki Makoto, and Philippines Defense Minister, Gilberto Teodoro, were among officials who attended the handover ceremony in Manila on Monday. The two countries are at the receiving end of Chinese aggression and are working for enhanced deterrence. Bureau Report, DD India.
And we are pleased to have with us Captain Alok Bansal, Director of the India Foundation, expert on maritime affairs. Dr. Bansal, $3 trillion of trade takes place through these the South China Sea every year. Can China, claim this entire South China Sea as their own? I mean, under any circumstances?
See, Chinese claims to South China Sea are extremely ridiculous actually, and the International Court of Arbitration has already ruled in favor of Philippines earlier, and where Vietnam had also included itself as a affected party, and it's already given a ruling, but China refuses to accept it and has not participated in the arbitration, and it does not comply with any convention of the United Nations Conventions of the Law of the Sea, by which China claims this 9 dash lines, which have now increased to 9 dash line, or I understand even 10 dash lines. There is no basis. In fact, China claims it as an internal water, which is in gross violation of any existing norms or anything. And of course, as far as Scarborough Shoal is concerned, Philippines and China have had confrontation. In the past, we had a regime in Philippines which had become fairly pro-China, and that was the time when Philippines would toe Chinese line. But with the change of government, the government has started reasserting its sovereignty, which they had never relinquished. And Chinese have now become even more aggressive, now using water cannons today. But we need to understand that this sort of incidents have the capacity of flaring up into major conflagration, and China needs to back down. In fact, it is having a confrontation as far as these areas are concerned with almost all the claimants to these islands, be it Philippines, Vietnam.
So that raises the question of whether China really wants to keep the status quo going, because the Philippines made the effort. President Marcos had gone to China way back, when he joined office, and he tried to, sort of set the pace in a sense for some sort of peaceful dialogue. But nothing seems like, it's really deteriorated since December of last year, and things have gone from bad to worse. And now they've reached this stage, and one gets the feeling that perhaps China likes to have these disputes, keeping on, going on and festering.
See, we need to understand China has not only been aggressive, it has actually tried to change the status of various islands and rocks, etc. Because as per as UNCLOS, the isolated rocks are not considered as sovereign territories capable of getting territorial sea or continental shelf, or for that matter EEZ. But China has built artificial islands, created artificial structures on these islands in gross violation of all norms. And that shows that China is probably pursuing a policy of aggressive nationalism. That probably one of the reasons is that the Chinese economy is slowing down. There is discontentment within China. The population is unhappy with the authoritarian rule of Xi Jinping, who has done away with an orderly process of handing over power which was established by Deng Xiaoping. And there is a simmering anger when you visit China, which I have done, and when you meet Chinese scholars who come on a visit, you can feel that they are very, very unhappy with the way things are going on. And one of the best ways of diverting attention is to pursue a policy of aggressive nationalism and go in for confrontation, as China has been doing in recent past. It's been pursuing a policy of aggressive nationalism. We have seen on our borders where we have given them a fitting reply, and now they are showing it more so in South China Sea, where they are actually trying to confront any country that challenges their undisputed sway over these islands, and as a result we have seen there are confrontations between Philippines and China which are increasing, and with these confrontation actually the initiative passes on to the person on the spot. And if one of the captains on the ships or vessels which are actually uses firearms, the conflict has a possibility of escalating into a major conflict, because United States has committed that it is bound to protect the sovereignty of Philippines.
So going back to what I asked you a little earlier, now that you brought the US into the picture, the US and Japan with their greater militarization of this area, to what extent is that acting as a deterrent, or is it actually making China do these sort of things to try and be that irritant factor? Because after all, these smaller countries are no match to China. They have to have the backing of the US. Now Japan is also helping to some extent. Of course, Japan on an individual basis may not be a match to China, though they have defeated them in wars in the past. But we have to see. What do you think?
See, China has a huge psychological impact as far as Japan is concerned. In fact, any attempt by Japan to even slightly militarize or take a military posture actually creates a lot of huge repercussions in China because of historical reasons, and you all know it very well. So Japanese aid, which is actually not purely a lethal weapon system, it's actually only a surveillance system, may create some problem. But the biggest deterrent for any flexing of muscle is undoubtedly the United States, which has a huge and the most powerful navy on the globe. Chinese armed forces have gained strength, but still Chinese navy is no match to the United States, and United States has increased the number of bases in Philippines. As you know, the President Marcos has given them some fresh bases.
But how long-term and reliable is the US support? Because after all, there are political changes in the US.
I agree. US policies have changed in the past. Even Philippine policies have changed. In fact, Philippines at one stage had asked US to withdraw all the bases, and now it's after quite considerable period of time that they have come back. But I feel as long as US bases exist in Philippines, US would be there, and it will act as a strong deterrent as far as Chinese aggression is concerned. But one cannot say President Trump in the past had said that anybody who wants US security has to pay for it, and he is a very strong contender, could come back to power. He has been asking for NATO, European powers and NATO to pay. He could probably tomorrow ask Philippines to pay for this sort of a security, and that sort of a transactional relationship could derail the whole process on which this trust is built up.
We leave it there. Thank you very much, Captain Alok Bansal. Thank you for enlightening us on this subject.
Thank you so much.
Our next story, the US Secretary of State Antony Blinken continues his tour of West Asia, and in Jordan, Secretary Blinken met with the King of Jordan, King Abdullah II, in Amman on Tuesday. Their talks focused on halting Israel's conflict in Gaza and also getting more aid into the war-torn territory and post-conflict reconstruction and governance. Blinken will head to Israel on Wednesday, where he will meet Benjamin Netanyahu and his war cabinet in Tel Aviv, as well as visit Gaza aid-related sites. In a stern message, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said that Israel will carry out an operation against Hamas in the southern Gaza city of Rafah, regardless of whether or not a ceasefire and hostage release deal is reached. Israeli officials are waiting for Hamas to respond to proposals for a halt in the fighting in Gaza and a return of the Israeli hostages before sending a team to Cairo to continue talks, as pressure has been building up for an agreement, in fact, to stop the conflict as it nears the end of 7 months now. What's happened is that expectations that an agreement could be in sight, these have grown in recent days following a renewed push led by Egypt to revive stalled negotiations between Israel and Hamas. Let's take a look at other stories making news. India's External Affairs Minister Jaishankar on Tuesday met the UAE Minister of State for International Cooperation Reem Al-Hashimi and discussed ways to further deepen the comprehensive strategic partnership between the two countries. The Bijapur police in India's Chattisgarh achieved a major success as 16 Maoists surrendered before the police. A reward of 16 lakh rupees or 160,000 rupees, I beg your pardon, yes, 1.6 million, that's 16 lakhs. It was announced for their surrender, with each individual also receiving a sum of 25,000 rupees as encouragement. India and Croatia held the 11th session of Foreign Office consultations on Tuesday in New Delhi. Both sides discussed the entire range of existing bilateral relations between the two countries. They also stressed on the importance of strengthening cultural and people-to-people exchanges. So still to come here on DD India News Hour. Korean Cultural Center to host All India Kpop Contest 2024 this year. Turkmenistan celebrates National Day of Turkmen Horse, the most beautiful Akhal Teke horse of the year, distributed at the ceremony.
India that invents. India that innovates. India that excites. India that invites. Land of possibility. Teeming with opportunities. Watch India Ideas each Thursday 8 p.m. only on DD India.
You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Mark Lynn. Now, going back to our top story on India's general elections, from 1996 to now, 7 general elections have been held in the country. The people of Madhya Pradesh have expressed confidence in the BJP. If the figures of the last 7 elections are to be taken into account, the vote percentage of the BJP has been on the rise in the state against a Congress party decline. Here's how things stack up.
Be it Lok Sabha or Assembly elections, the main contest in the politics of Madhya Pradesh has always been between BJP and Congress. Even though the UPA government may have been in power in the country for a long time before 2014, the people of Madhya Pradesh have shown more trust in the BJP since the 1996 elections. First of all, if we look at the figures of undivided Madhya Pradesh, in the year 1996, BJP got 27 seats out of 40, Congress got 8 and BSP got 2 seats and 3 others. In the year 1998, out of 40, BJP got 30 seats while Congress got 10 seats. Whereas in the 1999 elections, BJP had to be satisfied with 29 out of 40 seats and Congress with 11 seats. After Chattisgarh became a new state, 11 out of 40 Lok Sabha seats went to Chattisgarh and only 29 Lok Sabha seats were left in Madhya Pradesh. If we talk about divided Madhya Pradesh, in the year 2004, BJP got 25 out of 29 seats in Madhya Pradesh, while Congress was limited to only 4 seats. In the 2009 elections, BJP won 16 out of 29 seats. Congress got 12 and BSP got 1 seat. Not only this, Congress has been lagging behind BJP in the last 7 elections in terms of vote percentage. There was a tremendous jump in the vote percentage of BJP in the years 2014 and 2019. Congress got less than 35% votes in the last 2 elections. While BJP is claiming to win all 29 seats in this election, Congress is hoping to improve its performance in the upcoming Lok Sabha elections.
भारतीय जनता पार्टी मध्य प्रदेश की उन संसदीय सीटों को जो 1990 से लगातार जीत रही है, उसका कारण जनाभिमुख राजनीति है। उसका कारण लोगों से जनप्रतिनिधि का सीधा संपर्क और तादात्म्य है।
यह बात सही है कि भारतीय जनता पार्टी 1996 से मध्य प्रदेश में लोकसभा चुनाव लगातार जीत रही है। मध्य प्रदेश के जो चुनाव इस बार होने वाले हैं वह अप्रत्याशित होंगे और कांग्रेस पार्टी ज्यादा से ज्यादा सीटों पर लोकसभा चुनाव जीतेगी।
Political parties may make some claims, but only those who are able to tap the pulse of the public and are successful in conveying their message to the voters win the elections.
The statistics of the previous election may say something, but every election is new. It is very difficult to say when voters' mood will swing. But this time, BJP and Congress are putting full emphasis on it. But this time, who is in the MP's mind will be known on 4th of June. With camera person Gaurav Nirgudkar, Aditya Srivastav, DD India, Bhopal.
Korean Cultural Center will host the All India Kpop Contest 2024 this year. The event is open for individual and groups. The finalists of the All India Kpop Contest will be in the spotlight on the stage, equipped with a top-of-the-line stage system. They will also get an opportunity to visit Korea. Korean Culture Center will also further expand its support base to the secondary schools in India to ensure that more students in the country can learn Taekwondo as well as the Korean language in 2024. This year, more than 3,000 students in 47 schools will be getting Taekwondo training by trainers of the Korean Cultural Center, Delhi.
We announced the whole schedule of the K-pop contest this year today, and we are happy to announce hosting All India K-pop 2024 this year. And we've seen outstanding growth and popularity last few years. And we prepared much more things this year, like venue, upgraded venue and technical everything.
We arranged this event to strengthen the bond between Korea and India, and we would like to spread the Korean language and Taekwondo nationwide.
Admiral Dinesh K. Tripathi assumed command of as the 26th Chief of the Indian Naval Staff in the national capital, New Delhi, on Tuesday. During his career spanning nearly 40 years, the former Vice Chief of the Naval Staff held various important operational and staff appointments. He also served as the Flag Officer Commanding-in-Chief of the Western Naval Command. Admiral Tripathi succeeds Admiral Hari Kumar, and well, speaking to the media, the new Naval Chief assured that the Indian Navy will always be ready to protect the country's maritime interests.
Over the years, our Navy has evolved into a combat-ready, cohesive, credible, and future-proof force. The existing and emerging challenges in the maritime domain mandate that the Indian Navy should remain operationally ready at all times to deter potential adversaries at sea, in peace, and to win the war at and from the sea when asked to do so. This will remain my singular focus and endeavor.
Kathmandu, the capital of Nepal, has been identified as the most polluted city globally. The Ministry of Health and Population of Nepal has urged people to wear masks given the increase in air pollution in Kathmandu Valley. According to IQ Air, an organization that measures the real-time pollution of 101 cities in the world, Kathmandu was found to be the most polluted city in the world. In observance of Labour Day, several political parties in Sri Lanka are preparing to organize public rallies and processions throughout various cities across the island. The police, they have announced special traffic arrangements to facilitate the events in several cities, with Labour Day serving as a platform for political discourse and social advocacy. These gatherings are expected to attract significant attention and participation from citizens nationwide. Let's get you the sports news now. And Shivam Dubey and Yajuvendra Chahal, they have been named in India's 15-member squad for the upcoming T20 World Cup, which is set to be played in the West Indies and the US. Meanwhile, Sanju Samson and Rishabh Pant are the two wicket-keepers named in the squad. The squad is led by Rohit Sharma and has Hardik Pandya as vice-captain. The star batsman KL Rahul, who also featured as a wicket-keeper in the World Cup 50-over format, has been dropped.
India's T20 World Cup squad is out. Rohit Sharma captains the team with Hardik Pandya as vice-captain. Rishabh Pant, Shivam Dubey and Sanju Samson have been selected in India's 15-man squad. Yuzvendra Chahal is also back in the mix with Kuldeep Yadav, Ravindra Jadeja and Akshar Patel in the spin department. Jasprit Bumrah leads the pace attack with Mohammad Siraj and Arshdeep Singh. Rohit and Virat Kohli return after a break with Yashasvi Jaiswal opening alongside Rohit. Shubman Gill headlines the reserves. The squad is like this: Rohit Sharma, captain; Yashasvi Jaiswal, Virat Kohli, Suryakumar Yadav, Rishabh Pant, Sanju Samson, Hardik Pandya, Shivam Dubey, Ravindra Jadeja, Akshar Patel, Kuldeep Yadav, Yuzvendra Chahal, Arshdeep Singh, Jasprit Bumrah, Mohammad Siraj. Reserve players: Shubman Gill, Rinku Singh, Khalil Ahmed, Avesh Khan. India began their 2024 T20 World Cup campaign against Ireland on June 5 in New York and then play Pakistan, USA and Canada on June 9, 12 and 15. Sports Desk, DD India.
The squash player of India, Saurav Ghoshal, has announced his retirement from professional squash. During his career, Ghoshal won 12 Professional Squash Association titles and multiple medals at the Commonwealth Games and the Asian Games. He spoke exclusively to DD India's Abhishek Mahajan.
So hard to believe you have announced your retirement from PSA. First of all, tell us why this decision, age factor, body's demand, you want to spend more time with your family. Why retirement?
Firstly, thank you for having me and thank you for the lovely words. I think it's a combination of all the factors that you've mentioned. It has obviously been a very, very lovely journey that I've been on over the last 2.5 decades. And I felt like, especially after the Asian Games last year, my mind and body were kind of running on fumes a little bit. And I felt like I needed to get away to just let my body and mind heal a little bit and kind of replenish itself. So I thought that, the professional tour with the grind of 20-25 weeks of tournaments a year wasn't kind of giving me the required time to be able to do that. So I'm hoping that, taking this time away will help me recharge, and, playing for India is a lesser workload in terms of tournaments. So I think that should hopefully help me produce for a little bit longer for the country, which has always been the biggest honor and privilege to do for myself.
Turkmenistan President Sardar Berdimuhamedov has participated in an event in honor of the National Day of the Turkmen horse. The event included an award ceremony for the winners of the international competition, the most beautiful Akhal Teke horse of the year, and a thematic competition among representatives of creative professions. Well, that's all we have in this edition of DD India News Hour. Let's know your thoughts on the news of the day. And for all of those who are on the go, you can get the latest news and updates from India and across the world on the DD India mobile app. The app is available on both Android and iOS platforms. You can scan that QR code and download it. And we'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. My name is Mark Lynn. From all of us here in Delhi, thanks for watching DD India News Hour. Namaskar.
Do you know there's an investor protection fund